There comes a time in every chosen one's life when silence is no longer weakness, but divine preparation. A time when the heavens no longer whisper, but thunder in your favor. And right now, beloved, that time is unfolding. Because those who once laughed at your suffering, those who scoffed while you were bleeding, mocked your cries and danced on your name, are now tasting the very bitterness they served to you. You, the one who walked alone with nothing but faith. You, the one who was ridiculed for your sensitivity, criticized for your compassion, and misunderstood for your spiritual depth. You were not weak. You were chosen. And there's a sacred difference. They mocked your pain because they couldn't comprehend the weight of your calling. They saw your breakdowns but never knew the magnitude of your breakthroughs. They didn't realize that while they were mocking, the divine was molding. While they were laughing, heaven was layering wisdom upon your wounds. While they were mimicking your vulnerability, the angels were ministering to your soul in secret places. See, chosen ones often look like the underdogs in the early chapters. You weren't born into the applause, you were born into the fire, into the rejection, into the deep waters where only faith could breathe. And while the world turned its back on you, God kept his eyes on you. They didn't know that the same pit they threw you into was the place where your roots would dig deeper. They didn't understand that every tear you shed watered the seeds of your divine growth. They had no idea that the very pressure they applied to break you was forging an anointing they could never steal. You cried yourself to sleep while they gossiped. You prayed through nights they partied. You fasted while they feasted on your name. And now the spiritual tables are turning. The suffering you endured was never in vain. It was spiritual currency. Pain turned to purpose, betrayal transmuted into divine favor. This is the part they didn't see coming. The reversal, the revelation, the rise. You see, chosen ones carry a spiritual frequency that disturbs unhealed spirits. Your presence, your light, your very essence, it's a mirror to their darkness. And instead of healing, they chose hating. Instead of growing, they chose gossip. But what they didn't know is that every attack they launched against you only validated your destiny. You were never just going through pain. You were being processed, refined like gold in the furnace of affliction, strengthened in the sacred silence, groomed in the dark so your light would be undeniable. They mocked your loneliness, never realizing that isolation is often heaven's classroom. They called you weird, never realizing that prophets have always walked outside the norm. They labeled you too much, too emotional, too sensitive, because your spirit detected what their flesh refused to confront. But now, that same sensitivity is your spiritual superpower. The same heart they laughed at is now the source of your healing ministry. The same voice they mocked is now carrying divine messages that are shifting atmospheres and breaking chains. And oh, how the tables have turned. They are now the ones sitting in confusion, wondering how the one they tried to destroy is still rising. They are now the ones tasting the fruit of their own bitterness, choking on the very curses they once sent your way. Because you cannot curse what God has blessed. You cannot destroy what heaven has ordained. There's a prophetic shift happening, a divine vindication that no man can stop, and it's happening through you. You're not just a survivor, you're a vessel of resurrection power. You didn't just make it out, you were transformed in the process. What was meant to bury you only awakened the warrior within you. And now, those who once mocked your pain are witnessing your power. They're watching the same God they mocked you for believing in, now elevating you before their eyes. And I know, beloved, I know how deeply you felt those wounds. The betrayal wasn't small, the mocking wasn't harmless. It carved into your spirit like cold steel. You questioned if God had forgotten you, if your prayers were falling on deaf ears. But oh, how heaven was recording everything, every tear, every insult, every back turned. God saw it all, and he took notes. He saw you being left out, overlooked, misjudged. He saw them smile in your face and twist the knife behind your back. And he said, "Not forever." There would come a day when justice would kiss your destiny, and that day is dawning now. You're not hearing this by accident. Your spirit has been crying out for confirmation, and this is it. You're not crazy, you're not weak, you're not broken beyond repair. You are chosen, handpicked by the divine, set apart not to be pitied, but to be positioned, not to be played with, but to be protected. And make no mistake, your pain has power. The kind of power that frightens your enemies, because they now realize that everything they threw at you only made you stronger. Everything they said to break you only built you. And now they're experiencing the fallout of their own evil. It's not revenge, it's revelation. God is revealing who you are by reversing the lies they spoke over you. He's using your elevation to expose their intentions. He's turning your scars into signs, evidence of survival, of sanctification, of spiritual authority. So don't hide your pain. Let it speak, let it testify, because it's not just your story, it's your sword. The very thing they used against you is now the very thing God is using to lift you, and they can't stop it. Your light is no longer dimmed. Your voice is no longer silenced, and your spirit is no longer bound. The chains of shame are breaking, the echoes of mockery are fading, and in their place is a new sound, a rising, a roar from the heavens that declares, "This is my beloved, in whom I am well pleased." Chosen one, you are entering the season of divine reintroduction. The very people who mocked your pain will now witness your purpose. They will have no choice but to see what they tried to deny. Because when God lifts you, He does it publicly, not to embarrass your enemies, but to elevate His glory through your life. They laughed then, but they're silent now. There's a certain fire you walk through that no one can understand unless they've been chosen. And you, beloved, you didn't just survive the flames, you became the flame. That's why your presence unsettles those who tried to keep you bound. They remember the version of you they broke, but they don't recognize the version of you that rose. Let me tell you this, what you went through wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just about broken relationships, harsh words, or missed opportunities. No, what you faced was spiritual warfare, deep-rooted, generational, ancestral warfare, because the enemy saw your light long before you did. He saw the anointing dripping off your life. He saw the calling wrapped around your soul, and he panicked. So he sent people into your life who would mirror your fears, who would amplify your wounds, who would try to confuse your identity, not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You were never born to fit in. You were born to break cycles. You were never designed to settle. You were made to shatter limitations. So of course the battle was intense. Of course it felt like the weight of the world was pressing on your chest. That was the price of the oil you carry. But here's the truth most can't see. The pain you endured was the proof of your power. You weren't fighting for nothing. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every season of silence, it was shaping you, purging you, and preparing you. You were being trained in spiritual warfare while others were asleep in comfort. You were learning discernment while others were lost in deception. And though they mocked your process, they now fear your presence. Because you're not the same. There's something different about you now. You walk with authority, not arrogance. You speak with wisdom, not bitterness. You don't chase validation anymore because you've discovered your worth in the presence of God. And that, chosen one, that is terrifying to those who once tried to keep you small. The battles you faced were never about who you were. They were about who you were becoming. The enemy tried to destroy your identity before you could step into your destiny. But here you are, rising like prophecy fulfilled, not because you were perfect, but because you were preserved. Some of you have cried in places no one knew about. You've wrestled with thoughts of giving up, questioned your own value, begged God to explain why you had to endure so much pain while others seemed to prosper. But now you're beginning to see it wasn't punishment, it was positioning. You were being positioned for a platform of purpose. That's why God kept you hidden while others shined. That's why doors closed in your face. Because he was reserving something greater. That's why people you loved turned cold, because their loyalty couldn't go where your calling was leading. And though it broke your heart, it didn't break your spirit. You're still here, still breathing, still rising, still praying, still seeking, still standing after everything they did to make sure you wouldn't. And that strength, that resilience, that unshakable spirit, that's what they can't handle. They didn't think you'd make it through. They thought the rejection would ruin you. They thought the lies would silence you. They thought the absence of support would crush you. But they underestimated the power of the God you serve. They didn't realize that your help came from above, not beside you. That your breakthrough was forged in prayer, not in popularity. And now they're seeing the results of what happens when a chosen one refuses to die in the wilderness. Your enemies are no longer laughing. In fact, they're confused. They can't figure out how someone they tried to break keeps getting blessed. They don't understand how the same person they slandered is now walking in power, peace, and purpose. But let them stay confused. It's not your job to explain divine favor. Let them watch. Let them witness the grace on your life. Let them see how God vindicates His own. Because it's happening now. Heaven is shifting in your direction. The same mouths that mocked you will now marvel. The same hands that pushed you down will now be unable to touch you. The same spirits that tried to block you will now watch from a distance as you ascend. God is making your enemies your footstool, not for revenge, but for revelation. You are the proof that God takes what's broken and makes it powerful, that He takes the overlooked and makes them an oracle, that He takes the misfit and gives them a mantle. You've cried long enough. You've questioned yourself long enough. Now it's time to own your anointing, because the mantle on your life is real. The fire you've walked through wasn't just heat, it was holy. It burned away what wasn't meant to go with you. It refined your discernment. It birthed your authority. And now your steps are ordered with divine precision. Those who mocked your tears are now watching your triumph. And it's not just about you, it's about the testimony God is writing through you. Your life is becoming a living sermon, a walking deliverance, a healing in motion. Some of them can't even look you in the eye anymore. They sense the shift. They feel the weight of what they once mocked, because spiritual authority is not something you can fake, and it's not something they can take. And now that you're walking in it unapologetically, everything is changing. Doors are opening that no man can shut. Favor is flowing in places where you were once denied. You're being celebrated in the same circles that once rejected you. Why? Because God is faithful. Because you stayed pure when you could have turned bitter. Because you stayed quiet when you could have clapped back. Because you chose healing instead of hatred. And now the harvest is here. You are walking into rooms prepared for your purpose. You're stepping into seasons that were delayed, not denied. And those who once laughed, they're silent, humbled, witnessing a glory they can't explain. Chosen one, your story is not ordinary, and neither is your rise. This is only the beginning. Heaven is not finished displaying what happens when a wounded vessel stays in the hands of the potter. You were mocked, but now you're mighty. You were broken, but now you're bold. You were doubted, but now you're divine in motion. The battle proved your strength. The silence birthed your wisdom. The rejection led to your redirection. And the pain they thought would destroy you became the path to your greatest power. Justice is not always immediate, but for the chosen, it is inevitable. And now, justice is rising like the morning sun over your life. Not the kind of justice man creates, but divine justice, the kind that exposes, reverses, and restores. The heavens have opened, and God is about to make a public declaration of what's been happening in secret. The battles fought in silence are being rewarded in the open. Chosen one, your vindication is not coming quietly. It will be loud, it will be visible, it will be undeniable. The same people who mocked your tears will have to watch as joy floods your life. The ones who tried to assassinate your character will now be forced to witness your elevation. And no, it's not because you asked for revenge, but because God's justice is built into your calling. When they tried to bury you, they didn't realize they were planting a prophet. And now, you're about to bloom in full view of those who said you'd never make it. You have to understand, God never forgets the moments when you were faithful in affliction, when you praised with a heavy heart, when you gave while you were empty, when you forgave people who didn't even apologize. That kind of obedience writes contracts in heaven, and now those contracts are being executed. The divine has remembered your name. The favor that's coming wasn't bought with money, it was paid for with obedience, pain, and perseverance. You're stepping into a season where the last will be first, where the forgotten will be called forth, where the rejected will be resurrected. And while others scratch their heads in confusion, wondering how your life flipped so dramatically, you'll know it was never you. It was always God moving on your behalf. Don't downplay what's happening. Don't shrink back. This is not luck. It's not coincidence. It's divine strategy. Heaven has aligned situations for your comeback. Conversations are being had about you in rooms your feet haven't even touched yet. You're being honored in the spirit realm before the physical catches up. God is orchestrating encounters, opening supernatural doors, and shifting people into your path who will pour back into you the way you've poured into others for years. And here's the part that needs to be said. Your adversaries are feeling the shift. They can't escape it. Their energy is being returned to them. The same schemes they used to block you are blocking them. The same lies they used to manipulate others are now causing them to be exposed. The same laughter that echoed when you were at your lowest has turned to anxiety, to silence, to regret. Because the spiritual law is real, you reap what you sow. This isn't about vengeance, it's about divine balance. God is setting the scales right. And sometimes that balance comes through exposure, through loss, through delay. They're experiencing confusion, setbacks, and closed doors. And many don't even realize that they're walking through the shadows they cast over your life. What they did in darkness has caught up to them, not because you cursed them, but because heaven has its own justice system, and no one escapes it. And while they're unraveling, you're rising. The beauty of this moment is not just that you're being elevated, but that you're being healed at the same time. Deep healing, soul-deep restoration. Not just externally, but internally. God is tending to those quiet wounds, the ones no one saw, the ones you buried under strength because you had to keep going, the betrayal that lingered in your spirit, the trust issues you tried to pray away, the questions that haunted you in the midnight hour. He's healing it all because he wants you to rise whole, not wounded. He wants your next season to be filled with peace, not paranoia, love, not fear, confidence, not caution. He's removing the residue of rejection. He's detoxing your spirit from the lies you absorbed. He's rewriting the narrative they placed on your life and replacing it with his truth. You are not the broken one. You are not the problem. You are not hard to love, difficult to understand, or spiritually cursed. No, you are chosen, called, set apart. You walk with the power of someone who's been through fire and came out glowing. You carry the wisdom of someone who's danced with sorrow and found joy on the other side. And no one can take that from you. Chosen one, I want you to feel this in your soul. Your rise is real. This moment isn't hype, it's holy. The atmosphere around you is changing. The spiritual realm is responding to your alignment. You're no longer tolerating things that drain your spirit. You're no longer entertaining people who make you doubt your worth. You've outgrown manipulation, spiritual warfare disguised as friendship, and toxic environments that mocked your healing. And because of that, your life is shifting, not gradually, dramatically. Everything you lost is returning multiplied. The opportunities they blocked are being restored, better than before. The love you poured into the wrong people is returning from the right ones. The silence you endured in private is being filled with the roar of heaven's affirmation. You are not who you were. You've ascended, you've activated, you've awakened. And those who mocked your pain, they're witnessing your transformation with disbelief. They're watching the hand of God do what no one could have predicted. And deep down, they know they misjudged you. They know they touched what was sacred. They know the games they played had spiritual consequences. But don't let their regret distract you. Stay focused, stay humble, stay aligned. This is your time, but it's still sacred ground. You're walking into promises. You're stepping into fulfillment. And you don't have time to look back or explain yourself to those who chose not to understand you. You have a divine assignment to complete. You have people to reach, healing to carry, messages to deliver. Your life is a weapon in the hands of God, and He is not done using you. So speak boldly, walk fully, love freely, forgive completely. Because when they mocked your pain, they thought you were weak, but now they see it. They were mocking someone marked by heaven, and that mark can't be erased, only elevated. Let's go deeper now, beyond the emotion, beyond the surface, into the why behind everything you've endured. Chosen one, there's a divine paradox at work in your life. You were attacked not because of who you are in the natural, but because of who you are in the spiritual. You didn't attract opposition because you were flawed. You attracted it because you were favored. From the beginning, the light in you exposed what was hidden in others. That's the painful truth. Your purity, your empathy, your discernment, these weren't just admirable qualities. They were divine disruptions to people's dysfunctions. Your spirit carried a mirror that revealed what others were trying to avoid. So instead of confronting their own shadows, they chose to attack you. This is the law of spiritual reflection. When your soul carries truth, it will provoke resistance. When your presence carries purpose, it will stir opposition. But the mistake we often make is personalizing what was actually prophetic. They weren't fighting you, they were fighting the assignment on your life, the very thing God placed in you before the foundation of the world. Some of you were targeted from childhood, not because you were rebellious, but because you were rare, the black sheep, the empath, the dreamer, the one who saw too much, felt too deeply, and loved too purely. And because of that, you became a threat to the systems around you. Family patterns, cultural expectations, spiritual strongholds, they all felt your vibration, and it shook their foundations. It wasn't random, it was strategic. The enemy didn't wait until you became successful to attack you. He came after your identity before it ever matured. Why? Because if he could distort how you saw yourself, he could delay your destiny. If he could make you question your worth, you'd sabotage your own blessings. If he could make you internalize the pain, he could confuse your purpose. But here's what he didn't count on: resilience. He underestimated your bounce back. He didn't see that God had already sealed your future. He didn't anticipate that every wound would become wisdom, that every betrayal would become clarity, that every storm would anchor you deeper in truth. And now you see it, don't you? You were never cursed. You were called. The rejection wasn't a punishment, it was protection. The loss wasn't an ending, it was redirection. Every person who walked away was divinely removed because their energy couldn't align with your elevation. Every delay, every detour, every denial, it was all sacred strategy. But to fully grasp this, you have to understand the psychology of the ones who hurt you. You see, broken people often project, hurt people deflect, and unhealed people attack what they don't understand. They saw your light and mistook it for arrogance. They saw your boundaries and mistook them for pride. They saw your growth and mistook it for rebellion. But in reality, it was their unhealed inner child that felt threatened by your wholeness. Their masks couldn't survive around someone who chose authenticity. Their control couldn't function around someone who walked in freedom. So they mocked you, not because you were weak, but because they were. Because they didn't have the courage to do what you did, to break free, to confront their demons, to choose purpose over popularity. So instead, they tried to dim what they couldn't dominate. But chosen one, the fire in you was never theirs to manage. It was heaven's fire. You carry the DNA of deliverance, the spirit of awakening, the frequency of legacy. You were sent to shift timelines, to break bloodline curses, to rewire the story. And that kind of purpose does not come without a price. So yes, the pain was real. Yes, the attacks were deep. But now you can finally see, the greater the warfare, the greater the calling. You're not just someone who went through hard times. You're a spiritual architect, a blueprint breaker, a divine disruptor sent to realign everything that was off balance. Your soul didn't come here to repeat history. It came to rewrite it. This is why you couldn't stay small no matter how hard you tried. Why you never fit in. Why shallow conversations exhausted you. Why mediocrity felt like death. Because your soul was always yearning for more truth, more healing, more alignment. And that's exactly what terrified those around you. Because your transformation demanded they examine themselves. Your boundaries forced them to reflect. Your elevation made them feel left behind. And instead of choosing growth, they chose bitterness. But don't let their reaction shrink your radiance. Don't let their confusion cause you to question your clarity. The mockery wasn't about you. It was a defense mechanism. Their spirit recognized something divine in you before you even knew it yourself. That's why they tried to break you early. That's why they spread lies, sowed doubt, tried to isolate you. Because a unified, aware, and awakened chosen one is one of the most powerful forces on this planet. But now the veil has been lifted. You see with spiritual eyes now. You feel on deeper frequencies. You're no longer bound by the illusion. You've grown into the awareness that you are here for something bigger than comfort, bigger than approval, bigger than recognition. You are here to carry a divine assignment. So walk in it unapologetically. Walk in it knowing you were designed for this moment. Let your story be the sermon that awakens others. Let your healing become a lighthouse for those still lost in storms. Let your scars shine because they tell the truth the world needs to hear. And remember this, they are now experiencing what they put you through, not because you cursed them, but because spiritual laws are real. You don't have to fight dirty when you're chosen. You don't have to clap back when you're covered. You don't have to chase revenge when you walk in favor. Their season of mocking has ended. Your season of rising has just begun. Now breathe, beloved. Just pause and take a deep breath. Let your soul feel what your spirit has always known. You are the chosen one. Not by chance, not by luck, but by divine design. You are the one that generations cried out for. The one your ancestors prayed would come. The one who was born to break what others bowed to. The one who didn't just survive the pain, but turned it into prophecy. The one they mocked because they sensed what was coming long before it arrived. And now it's here. The season of divine reversal. The moment where everything hidden becomes revealed, where the ones who thought you were finished must now watch you flourish. The mocking that once echoed through your nights has fallen silent. The laughter at your expense turned to whispers of regret. But I'm here to remind you, don't return hate for hate. Don't become what they tried to make you. Because the true mark of the chosen is not just survival, but transformation. You've grown, you've ascended, and now your presence carries peace, not vengeance, power, not pride, healing, not hurt. You are not here to prove anyone wrong. You are here to prove God right. Everything about you, your pain, your path, your peculiar nature, was preparing you for a time such as this. A time where you walk in full confidence of who you are and whose yours you are. A time where you don't just believe in miracles, you become one. A time where you are no longer the rejected outcast, but the resurrected vessel of light. Yes, they're feeling the sting now. They're feeling what you once felt. Confusion, silence, divine disconnection. And that's not your burden to carry. That is God's business to handle. You've already done your part. You trusted. You surrendered. You forgave, you kept walking. And now God is exalting you, not to make you boast, but to make you bless. You are being lifted so others can see what happens when someone refuses to bow to bitterness, when someone chooses prayer over pettiness, when someone chooses purpose over popularity. You are the living example that pain is not the end of the story. It's just the doorway to divine power. You didn't come this far to shrink. You didn't endure this much just to settle. You didn't fight all those demons just to sit quietly and pretend to be ordinary. No, rise, chosen one. Take your place. Let the world see what heaven has known all along, that no weapon formed against you could prosper, that no betrayal could break your destiny, that no delay could deny your promise. Because when you walk, angels go before you. When you speak, chains break. When you pray, the atmosphere shifts. And when you rise, the entire world watches, because they mocked you thinking your pain was weakness, but your pain was prophecy, your pain was fire, your pain was proof. Proof that you were chosen, proof that you were covered, proof that you were called. And now there's no going back. You've been anointed to lead, to inspire, to illuminate paths for others still wandering in the dark. You are here to be a vessel of glory, not guilt, of purpose, not punishment, of love, not loss. So leave behind the need to explain yourself. Let go of the desire to make them understand. They won't, and they were never meant to. What God is doing in your life is spiritual, not logical. It's supernatural, not situational. It's ordained, not optional. Chosen one, you've passed the test. You've been weighed, and you haven't been found lacking. You've been found faithful. Now it's time to speak boldly, to walk freely, to bless those who cursed you, to lift others as you rise. And most of all, to remember that your elevation is not the end. It's the beginning of a bigger mission. So here's your call to action, beloved. Don't just rise, reign. Don't just shine, shift atmospheres. Don't just speak, break strong. Don't just survive, set others free. Let your story become someone else's survival guide. Let your healing be the hope someone else has been praying for. Let your rise be a revelation to the ones still hiding in the shadows of shame. And as you do, may your peace be unshakable. May your joy be untouchable. May your favor be undeniable. They mocked your pain, but now they're experiencing it. And you? You're experiencing God in full force, in full light, in full glory. Because you were chosen, and nothing can ever change that. So rise, chosen one. The heavens are cheering, the earth is shifting, the battle is over, and your victory has only just begun. Until next time, walk in power, walk in grace, and never forget who you are.